So it was Henry Kissinger that once said, "To be an enemy of America can be dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal." Now, it very much seems like Europe is starting to experience exactly what that means. I mean, roughly since the Second World War, the United States, of course, has taken on a very dominant role in the world, economically, financially, militarily, and Europe has very much aligned itself with the United States. But not only aligned itself, they kind of, certainly over the last several decades, they've basically submitted themselves to the will of the United States. Take, for example, NATO. I think that's a good example. So most European countries have joined NATO by now, and the basic idea behind it, or at least as we've been told, is to create a certain defense structure for not only the United States, but certainly for European countries, with the idea of strength through unity. That's the basic idea, or again, that's what we've been told. But it seems like, especially over the last several decades, the United States has been using NATO as a means of pressure, a means of leverage to submit others, being European partners of NATO, to the will of the United States. I mean, take a look at what happened over the last few years or the last few decades. So Europe has gone along with this outrageous, crazy idea of trying to pull Ukraine into the sphere of influence of the West, knowing full well that that would cause a lot of trouble with Russia. They signed this crazy association agreement with Ukraine, by the way, against the will of many Europeans. To give you an example, so in the Netherlands, a referendum was held asking the people of the Netherlands directly, do you want us to sign this agreement, yes or no? Well, over 61% said, no, we don't want you to sign this agreement because it's not good for us and it's gonna bring us a lot of trouble with Russia, so don't sign it. Now, of course, the Dutch government completely ignored this and they went along with this anyway. Now, Europe has been sending tens of billions of euros worth of weaponry to Ukraine to be used in a war that Ukraine is still losing. They also went along with sanctioning Russia. They've been sanctioning Russia like crazy, even though it seems like the one suffering the most from these sanctions is Europe. Also, they went along with confiscating Russian assets, these frozen assets that are sitting in the banks in the West. They just took it illegally. And also, and this is the craziest, I mean, they went along with cutting off Russian gas. I mean, cheap Russian gas is basically the foundation of the economic success of Europe. And now you're cutting that away? Really? And already you can see the direct results of this. I mean, the German economy, which has basically been the engine of the European economy, is falling apart. You know, Europe is deindustrializing at an incredible pace. So all of this, all of what they're doing is absolutely to the detriment of the EU itself. Now, the same is true for China. So Europe went along with pushing away China. Look, for example, at ASML. Again, good example. ASML, the chip maker, has basically been ordered by the US government to not sell certain goods to China. Why? Because the US is involved in some kind of tech battle with China. That's why ASML is restricted to sell certain goods to China. And this, of course, hurts Europe because ASML is a European company. Now, Europe has also slapped some very high tariffs on especially Chinese EVs, Chinese electric vehicles. I mean, that's economic suicide, it seems. And why? Only to please the US? Okay, well then, what is Europe getting in return? What is Europe getting in return for doing all this stuff, basically ordered by the United States, that only seems to hurt Europe the most? What is it getting? Well, what Europe is getting is Donald Trump saying that it wants a part of Europe. I mean, Donald Trump is saying that he wants to control Greenland. Donald Trump also said that he wants European NATO members to increase their defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is outrageous. That would absolutely crush the social security structures in place in Europe right now. That's crazy. And Europe should also expect a wall of tariffs when they're trying to export goods to the United States. That's what Europe is getting in return. That's their reward. So my question is, when is Europe going to wake up and stop this master-slave relationship with the US that is only killing Europe? When are they going to open their eyes and look around? I mean, for example, Russia. Russia has re-established itself as an absolute superpower, not only militarily but also economically. China is about to overtake the United States as the #1 economic superpower in the world. Look at the rise of India. Look at the rise of Indonesia, who just joined BRICS, by the way. And by the way, and this is very much underreported in Western mainstream media, Indonesia has already overtaken the UK, France, and also Germany on the list of biggest economies based on GDP. So it's very obvious that that is where the future is. BRICS, the global south. So when is Europe going to say to the United States, listen up, man, I mean, we've had a good run, but we're fed up being treated like this, and we're gonna take our business elsewhere. So when will European leaders finally be bold enough to stand up to the United States? Well, there are already a few European leaders that are already being kind of rebellious, but instead of being applauded, they're being fought by the European Commission. Now, I'm not going to name any names. I think you can guess who they are. But anyway, what do you think? Do you believe that Europe should continue this destructive relationship with the United States, or what? Let me know what you think.